All right, pretty standard opener here. We're going to drop our footmen, and oh my god. Could you not drop your safe on my head here? And okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to hold this. I don't have any gold. Oh my god, they're coming. They're coming. Oh my god. I'm so dead, dude. That has never happened to me before. Are you kidding me? Hello and welcome back. We've got Charlga and the Deadmines today, and this is a tough week for beasts. If you're not using Life Leech, or if you're not able to have Living Bomb and like chickens, I've struggled to find like a good way to deal with this. So starting out here, we have Charlga. I'm using Spirit Passage. I highly recommend you to use Cavernous Mist, which makes Charlga cost 1 when you play her. So 8 turns later, when you play the next mini, it will cost 1 as well instead of 2. And that can save you a lot of gold throughout your run. The Spirit Passage gives you an extra level whenever you play a mini for 5. I don't think that it is that important. I'd rather have the 1 cost reduction. Blizzard is really good for Stage 1 and Stage 2 for hitting clumps of enemy units and getting a lot of value, particularly on Stage 2 when they pass by the tower. We have Firehammer here. You can use Pyromancer instead, but I'm using Heightened Rage, or I'm using the other one, the Fury. And the reason I recommend Blazing Speed over Heightened Rage is because she'll attack faster, and if the breakpoints are not favorable, meaning if she doesn't kill them in fewer hits, it's going to take longer for her to kill the units. Whereas with Blazing Speed, if it takes the same number of hits to kill, she'll kill them faster, and this can save health on your minis a little bit more. However, if the breakpoints are more favorable, like it turns 3 hits into 2, you would want to go with the level 1. Next, we have Footmen, and I went back and forth between the 2 talents here, Shield Bass and Fortification. In my opinion, Fortification is the more consistent talent because it's bugged right now. It gives Footmen 70% health total, and it's giving them 30% extra HP that is full and active as soon as they're spawned, so it makes them a lot more tanky and a lot more resilient. But Shield Bash can also save their health, and when they fix that bug, it's going to be the more consistent talent. The big problem with Shield Bash is it can cause the aggro to reset on certain units like Prowlers and Stone of Tarn, and that can cause them to charge to your backline. So for me, they were constantly charging my Firehammers, and I had to be very careful about how I set up those stuns on those units. So just be advised, that can be a drawback to using Shield Bash. If you're using flying units, it's not as big of a deal. Dark Iron Miner is just good for denying the enemy gold. You don't really care about the talent that much. And then next we have the Defias Bandits. If you know me, I love Picklock in these maps because in Stage 2 you can snowball your lead. You're supposed to get 2 chests at the very beginning of that map. And then on Stage 3 you can also get extra chests for extra gold. And then Quillbore, you would want to use Bristleback. It's very good against Sneed. He would take a lot of damage, and then even though they nerfed it, and then I keep accidentally leaving Tunnel Vision on, but be advised you should probably take Bristleback if you have it. And again, you could take Pyromancer if you do not have Firehammer at a respectable level. I do recommend Conflagrate in this dungeon, and let's jump into dungeon mechanics. Deadmines Stage 1 mechanics. So we have Smite. He has 2 attacks, a single target, and an AoE anchor. More on that in a bit. And on the right here, we have this smaller pack of 2 Defias and Troll. That's normally where we're going to be pushing. And on the left, we have this bigger pack of a Troll and a Stone of Tarn. They respawn every 30 seconds after being killed, so it's easier to push from the right. At 320, a Stone of Tarn will spawn at these gates. Every 45 seconds, another one will spawn, and it'll walk down this pipe towards your base. You'll have to defend it. Most cost-effective answer is chickens. Otherwise, you'll have to find another way to peel, be it Footmen or Defias Bandits plus another mini. I could not find a specific trigger for this AoE knockback that he does. He seems to do it regardless of number of targets, and he seemed to be able to do it many times in a row, so it doesn't seem to have an internal cooldown. Sometimes it knocks back, sometimes it doesn't. Don't really know what's triggering that. There is no optimal opener for this stage. You'll have random spawns on the left or right starting out, so generally speaking, you're going to want to have to answer the push and meet it head on to prevent it from hitting your base too much, and then continue pushing in that direction later on throughout the map. You'll want to try and get as much value as you can with your AoE clears if you're running them. Try and maximize the value you get from your spells. In this case, there are 8 gold of Trolls, Murlocs, and Spiders for 4 gold in Blizzard. That's a great trade. And you'll notice I just killed these guards here in front of the boss. The troll dies at 2:43. 30 seconds later at 2:13, the troll respawns. So you can try and include that in your cleave. as you try and snowball a final push to take down the boss. Second boss is Cookie. His main mechanic are these massive waves he spawns. Basically, you're supposed to deal with them with Living Bomb or other AoE. I use Blizzard. And they come every 45 seconds, and you want to try and kill them as they're passing by the tower to try and take the tower as well. If you can't do that, you might have to hold it at your base. So Cookie has a AoE splash attack, and it applies poison. You can spin him away using Quillbore or another mini. Just be advised that he will cleave down footmen very quickly if you cannot AoE him down from range. This map, you are meant to take these chests within 20 seconds. The enemy will not spawn any units, and try and take the gold mine at the bottom right using a kobold as soon as possible, or they will challenge you with their own kobold. I like to take the middle tower and then try and take the left tower. The right tower is optional. Just make sure that you are able to defend anything that comes from it. Every 45 seconds or so, a big push will come through the right tower and then the left tower and then back to the right tower, so you do have to be able to deal with that. Final boss of the Deadmines is Sneed. He has an AoE ground and air cleave attack. He's also armored, so you're going to need elemental damage to do full damage to him. Two ways to beat him are to snowball a melee push into him, usually footmen, or to use Quillbore and Whelp Egg Unbound Cheese. The main mechanic of this map are these pads. When they activate, they will kill the unit that walks across and clone them 5 times, and then they will reset after 20 seconds. The map generally starts off by taking these chests on the left here and pushing and taking the left tower. First unit that gets cloned are these Goblin Sappers. It's pretty much scripted. 5 of them come out, and it kills a unit that walks across the pad. In this case, I tried to use a Dark Iron Miner to beat out this Molten Giant. I lost the roll somehow, and sometimes you end up in these bad situations where you just get unlucky, and the unit that walks across is really big and beefy, and you have to deal with it. So best way to do that is to have a ranged AoE elemental unit on top of the bridge that can kind of splash them down over time, and they'll do so safely without being attacked by that unit. If you have Pyromancer, Safe, or great options, otherwise you can use Whelp Eggs in front of the units, and that will slow them down and also help splash them down. It can get very out of hand though, and in this case, I was not able to turn back the tide, so sometimes you end up having to restart. Sometimes you get unlucky and your Kobold just walks beyond it just as the pads turn on, so you'll have to use an Unbound unit to try and turn the pads into a lesser threat. You know, in this case, it would have been a Molten Giant if I had not used my Dark Iron Miner to stop it. Squad units are going to be your friend in Deadmines. A lot of the time, you'll just incidentally have a squad unit cloned. In this case, you can see the Vultures got cloned. And they are a lot easier to deal with because their HP is spread out across the units. Managing the pads is key to taking down Sneed in Deadmines. Most of the damage sources in Deadmines are physical. There are a couple exceptions, like the Spiders and Chain Lightning in Stage 1 and Chain Lightning in Stage 2. And then in Stage 3, we have Bat Riders, Safe Pilot, and Ogre Mage. This can help you craft your own deck. Okay, so for our first relics, I go with the Arachnid Whistle to buy time for Charlga by spawning some other units. The other relics didn't really provide much benefit. Now this first stage, we're using a different deck. Just know the reason I'm using this clip is because it shows how to handle the holding pattern correctly if you get offered it. So this shows you multiple times how to do the right rotations to come out ahead. So starting out here on the right, you see the enemy spawned a bunch of units. I use Blizzard because I get good value because there were multiple units. We had a Troll, we had Murlocs, and we had Mountaineer, which is 4 gold versus, about 8, give or take. And then I follow up by spawning with the Footmen. And then I do a little trick here where I push my Kobold forward. But what I should have looked at is the fact that the Defias are on the other side of the bridge. So this is a little bit ill-advised, and I'm going to end up losing the Kobold here. Now watch this. I drop my Defias Bandits to catch the Stonehoof Tauren, and then I use Charlga to freeze him in place. And I will be doing this multiple times throughout the run. This is my bread and butter with Charlga. If you have chickens, it's better to do that. And basically, you want to get in this position here. So we've done some really good trades here. I see the Troll come out here, and now I know I have 2 Murlocs, I have a Troll, and then I have those 3 guards there. So I'm going to use my Blizzard to get a lot of value here. I've slowed it down here because you can see as I see the Troll comes out, I immediately snap to the Blizzard and I use it to clear all this and get a little bit of chip damage on the boss as well. Now it's a little unfortunate the boss is padding to the left, but I do get lucky and he spawns spiders on top of that. So that gives me even more value on top of that. So now I can push safely into the boss, and this gives me breathing room to move into this gold mine area here. If I didn't have this breathing room, I would have to use like a Dark Iron Miner, which is what I ended up changing to in my overall build. And you can use the Dark Iron Miner when you see the Defias pat to the left, and there aren't that many threats coming from the middle top there. And you can use that to deny the enemy goal. So you can see here, I set up the Defias Charlga defense at the bottom left again, and I see a ton of value here, so I go ahead and Blizzard as the boss pats back to the right, and now I'm setting up my push. So I have my Pyromancer go to the right as my footmen are to the left. And I like to split up my minis here because the boss tends to use Execute and Chain Lightning if you stack too many minis together. And that is why I am not dropping a second set of footmen, even though I can afford it, because if I do, the boss may start AoEing with his anchor, and then I may get executed and Chain Lightning. We're dropping another one here because I want them to walk forward immediately, keep the boss engaged, and I want to finish the fight. We're not really having to deal with extra spawns because he spawned them right behind him, so I get extra value from the Blizzard, and this is a very clean kill as a result. This is the setup you're looking for, and you want to try and push right with it. Glazed Cannon is a good relic, but it is anti-synergy with Footmen, so I'm going to go with a Thorium Plate to add a little bit extra damage. The Whelplings aren't going to really matter that much. So starting out here, our priority is to take the 2 chests in front of us. We get a pretty bad hand, but you see I'm pausing here because I want to know exactly what I'm going to do. So I want to push immediately into the tower on the right. And just so you know, my first relic is Troll's Blood Potion, so my units heal near towers in the barracks. I also drop a Kobold at the bottom right here to go for the mine. And then I set Charlga and the Defias on the chest on the left. So I just trying to push all of my units to the right as fast as possible so I can take that middle tower. I use Blizzard to kind of soften up the push on the left. And I don't want the push on the left to chain to my tower on the right because I want to keep all those units away from the tower on the right, so I only have to hold them at my base. You see that I spawned at the beginning the footmen right to the far right of the left spawn, and that allowed them to walk as far right as possible to that tower. So now I don't really have to worry about defending that middle tower as much as I would have otherwise, because a lot of the time it can cause the left pole to come into the middle as well. So now you can see here I've ended up with a very successful push, and I don't even have to defend the right anymore because of that. And so now I'm in a pretty good position to continue to secure these chests with Defias Bandits, and I'm deciding, do I need to take left or right tower? I go ahead and take the left tower because I've already defended the right, so I'm not really super worried about anything coming from the right, and I want to have a good setup. I'm experimenting a little bit here to see if Charlga can take the right tower by herself. What I found out is if she's underleveled, she does not stun the tower, and so unfortunately she's not going to be able to take it, but it is something that I was experimenting with. What I've concluded is it's not always best to take the right tower, and sometimes it's better to just push from the left and the middle tower and defend those as best as possible, and then use footmen to hold the home when needed. And you use Blizzard as well to cleave down these waves that come out. So I know that the chest is coming out here soon. I want to focus on what's going on up top, so I spawn the Defias Bandits to the bottom left to grab that chest so I don't have to manage them so much. And then I make sure that the arrow is facing the right way, and then I defend the right like I was talking about here. And I'm not taking the right because I just don't have the resources to take the right and also do enough damage to Cookie here. So now I'm going to spin Cookie away from my Fire Hammers with Quillbore. I'm in a very good position to do a lot of damage, and this is my only clear condition against him. If I do not set this up, I will not have enough damage to kill him, and a wave will come out and stop me. So we go in for the kill right here, and we somehow win this level. We go with Strange Dust to get a little bit extra value from our squads, and the Vanishing Powder is good, but I think it has negative synergy with the deck. So we're going to push left here, and we're going to use the Blizzard to deal with this Bat Rider and the Safe Pilot, because I don't have a good answer to reach the Safe Pilot and the Bat Rider. You know, I could use Firehammer, but the Stonehoof might charge it and cost me that unit, so I hold back on using it. I use Quillbore to secure this chest, and then I use Kobold down the middle to take the gold mine. Now, I'm a little bit upset because I didn't see this Ogre Mage spawn here. It just popped up for just a second, and it's going to trigger the pad. And I just want to point out here, I'm not trying to bamboozle anyone, but my footmen are level 23 now. They were level 20 in the first and second clears. I got to this level, and it was very difficult because the footmen were just dying instantly to any damage. I didn't have Tyrion to back them up. So this level is actually very difficult if you are significantly under-leveled. And as a result, you may not have the tempo to push into the boss. So I'm going to use my Dark Iron Miner because I see my Kobold goes over the pad and doesn't trigger it, unfortunately, to use up the pad and prevent that Molten Giant from being cloned. And now I can defend him at my base. Footmen are actually quite good at defending Molten Giant, and now I have a lot of Vultures moving forward, so that's going to work out in my favor here in a moment. Basically, if you can get a lot of squad units on your side, you can bamboozle the pads and spawn these insignificant units. Even a footman would be better than some of the units that might spawn. Like Ogre Mage, we were lucky because our spawns were on top of that spawning area, but sometimes it can get kind of rough to deal with that if you don't have the right answers ready. So now we've moved our first push into the boss, and basically it doesn't really matter how many units are on him, just make sure that one unit is on him, and the footmen are a great unit for that cause. If you have Quillbore and you have the Bristleback talent, he actually does a lot of damage to himself. I think I had Tunnel Vision on, so unfortunately he wasn't doing much damage to himself. And I try and set up this Kobold here to go across the pad, and I get unlucky. Even though the Kobold was there first, somehow the Sappers spawn. Sometimes you just get unlucky. And basically, at this point, I know I won. All I have to do is cycle back to Blizzard and use it on the boss, and I've won. And my push is getting very close. But I don't want my dungeon level to get too much higher, so I'm going to go ahead and surrender this one and call that one a W. So thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. It lets me know what kind of content you guys want to see. And good luck on your Deadmines run. This is a tough week. Catch you on the flip side, y'all. Bye-bye.